Welcome to Benevolent Business, the podcast discussing how to build a business that positively impacts society, the community, the environment, employees, and much more. Brought to you by our host, Hayden Bloomfield, and producer, David Proud.
That's me, and we're also joined by my cat Felicity, but you'll only see her if you see the video version.
This week, we're also joined by Keith Mabbutt, the founder of the Street Soccer Foundation.
And I think what we're going to talk about in the interview actually fits in really well from our interview last week with Phyllis and Gabe, because he had to switch his purpose. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I wanted to chat with you, Hayden, because in that interview last week, you were speaking to Phyllis and Gabe about your purpose. And I wanted to know, have you given it any more thought since then?
Yeah, before we did the recording for the podcast, I was speaking to Phyllis, and she was really questioning me on my own purpose and what purpose is and my own sort of drivers. And that definitely opened my eyes, as I mentioned in the conversation. And since then, it's just sort of, I suppose it's just given me so much more clarity and thought over, in business and in life, just what I want to drive towards and what impact I want to have, and how, obviously this is what this whole podcast is about. It's just having that benevolent impact. And it's been that sort of extra motivator and given me, as I said, more clarity over how I can do things, and even in my own business, how I can sort of change and adapt things to make further improvements.
I heard pretty much none of that, because Zoom made you go, ah. We'll just carry on. So we were just chatting before this. You've had an interesting meeting with a lawyer, and you're starting to think about franchising your business as well. So how would that fit in with your purpose?
So the whole concept there is around, with Domestic Works in particular, just across thinking in terms of expansion. So my ambition would be to have a nationwide company, but commercially that seems much more viable than domestically to manage. And I've just pondered the idea of franchising before, but it's more of, I need to develop the system, and then obviously that's kind of what you're buying into as a franchise, is this brand and this system. But now thinking on it, I want it to be more than that. I want it to be an extension of this lifestyle, of this ethos and of this culture, that by being part of this franchise, the big significance is that you're joining our culture around sustainability and benefiting the environment, even with looking at, depending how it goes, trying to pull deals with van companies for electric vans as being part of the franchise model, and even with, I know a company that does renewable energies, so they fit your charging point, they fit solar panels, so even looking at some sort of affiliation or partnership with them, where the agreement is, as part of the franchise, we encourage and we work towards living more sustainably, and also becoming, because as a company we want to become carbon negative, so if we can put that onto all of our franchisees in the future when they exist, then that can be part of the sort of partnerships we look at forming in the future. I
think it has to be, really. If you're going to go into this franchise model, it's got to be the purpose behind it as well. Like, you want I say a sustainable business, but in terms of environmentally sustainable business, that's like your USP, really, isn't it? Build a business that is actually good for the environment.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why we'd look to do a lot of things, like, as a franchisee, the package would be that you have a fully kitted out van. And so we'd look at forming partnerships with all of our suppliers and narrowing it down to as few as possible. So then, like, all the hand tools are one supplier, all the power tools are one supplier, the van comes from a supplier, and even the way that the van's charged and the home generates energy can be part of that franchise relationship that we form. But just so then we can really build a better relationship with the suppliers we work with, and just develop more and more, I suppose, a better relationship and better deals for ourselves. Because obviously if you can buy in bulk, it's just so much more cost effective. And that's exactly what we want to do. Obviously, when you're starting out with one franchisee, it's a bit different to when you've got 150. When you say to a company, we want to buy 150 brooms, it's a bit more appealing than we want to buy one broom. That's a poor example.
I mean, I know it's like very, very, very early days, but I mean, how big do you see that getting?
Well, with that franchise model and the culture it's surrounded, it's the kind of thing that you can get it nationwide. I'm not going to say relatively easy. I'm going to say it's like, I can see it being a process that achieves a nationwide service much easier than by building it as the company we are at the moment and gradually expanding. And even then, once it is nationwide, I can see the franchise model finding its way overseas easier than, again, as a company. Because it's just, as a franchisee, obviously you're your own business, so to speak. So it's sorting out these sort of small businesses of a team of like 1 through to 2, 3, 4, where they're sort of doing the work themselves, but they've just got the support of our operations, our systems, our processes, but it's all part of this culture, and it just opens the door for them to become a carbon negative company like straight away. And so that, I mean, once you've got all the systems in place, you just need to translate it to French and Spanish and German and Italian.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's all the stuff that you've built up since you've been in business. You're helping people stop in making those mistakes and getting them on the path to being carbon negative, carbon neutral, like as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, it just feels like the impact can be made much quicker and more effectively with the franchise model compared to if we stick to growing it. And because I like pondered different ideas in terms of, once I have the plan, could I look at investors? Could I look at a loan? Like, investors just becomes a bit daunting because it's releasing your equity and it's then other people having a say. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm very, very focused on the single drive of what we want to achieve, and our vision is a world that works with the environment. And a franchise model can just expand on that across the southeast, across the nation, into other countries globally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like,
while keeping the control.
Yeah, it's trying to think of the right way to phrase this, but it's like expanding your influence, really, because there's only so much you can influence people and only so much good you can put out into the world if it's just you and your company. Whereas if you're helping other companies doing it, you're giving a lot more back. You're doing a lot more. Yeah,
exactly. And like part of this project, I'd say part of this project is a huge PR campaign behind it, which has a lot of fun. It's sort of like I've started having the initial discussions and like looking at different people I can get in for that project and how it's going to be achieved. Mm-hmm. And it's quite exciting.
It is very, very exciting. So let's have a chat with Keith and hear a bit about his journey, and then we'll come back and we'll chat a little bit more about purpose.
Keith, welcome to Benevolent Business. Good afternoon.
Lovely to see you, Hayden. Thanks for joining. I was going to say joining me, but yeah, because I do a podcast as well. There you go, straight in off the bat. But yeah, no, it's lovely to be here. Lovely to be here, mate.
What's your podcast?
We just got a little Street Soccer United podcast through the foundation that I run, and yeah, we sort of launched it during the COVID pandemic last year, so just to kind of engage and keep people motivated and stuff like that. But listen, it's not about that, it's about your one. Come on, it's the Benevolent, come on.
I'll have to check that out. So let's get things kicked off. Street Soccer Foundation. Keith, can you give us a quick description of exactly what that is?
Yeah, of course, thank you. So the Street Soccer Foundation, we're a registered charity. We operate nationwide using essentially the power of football to engage vulnerable and homeless young adults across the country with a fusion of professional football coaching, mindset training, skills and employability workshops and mentoring support to ultimately, improve their soft skills, build their confidence, their resilience, their motivation, and help them move on in their lives. Basically, our strapline is changing lives through football, which I'm pleased that we achieve on.
So in your own background, Keith, because you, if I'm right, you were a footballer at some level. So what's your own background there in football?
I like that, Hayden, at some level. Yeah, I'll give you that, because I just fell short of my pro contract. So I was a schoolboy at Millwall, and then I went on to Gillingham and Charlton. So I was at Charlton Athletic. That was my last sort of pro club, and just missed out on my pro contract there. So then fell into kind of your semi-pro, non-league sort of stuff, and then just basically fizzled out, unfortunately. Just one of them, regrettably. But I then sort of went from there and fell into recruitment and got a real proper job, as it were. So, but yeah, that was kind of my background. So I was a footballer for a little while, and it was, I lived and breathed it, mate. I was playing sort of 5, 6, 7 days a week, representing my county and district and that sort of stuff as well. Loved it, and I always thought I'd be a footballer. All my mates around me thought I was going to make it, but it is what it is. There you go. But I've got something even better now, I should say.
Exactly. To add. But I just want to add in there, where I said some form of footballer, that's just out of my own ignorance. I have no idea when it comes to football. I know there's different levels, but not a clue. But so let's get back. Let's touch on your obviously coming out of football and going into, well, to quote yourself, a proper job. So what's your journey there? You said in recruitment, because that was quite an interesting conversation when we had the chat before.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? So because of that situation that I had, I didn't even know about a mindset, right? So, when I look back, I can appreciate that was what it was all about. And my mindset was I'm going to be a professional footballer, that when that was kind of taken away from me a little bit, someone else makes that decision, on your behalf, as it were. You're not going to have a pro contract. You've just missed out. It's quite a tough situation. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So thankfully, I managed to get. I got into university, got a degree, and went down the education route, and then fell into recruitment. And what I mean by that is simply, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I had to get a job, because I had to start paying bills and get my own place. So I sort of just saw it back in the day, because it's nothing like this nowadays. But I saw sort of adverts in newspapers, and sort of found one, sounded all right. Went down for the interview, and it was at a recruitment company, and they were actually interviewing me for them. And I didn't realise that. I thought I was interviewing for the job, but I was really sort of interviewing for them to have me on their books as a candidate, as it were. So that was an eye-opener. And they ended up offering me a job to join their agency. So that's how I started, in recruitment. So I suddenly found myself working in an agency in London. And I genuinely loved it. I loved it. It was helping people get jobs and move on. And, we were being paid, kind of, in principle, being paid to help others get jobs. So it was quite a cool way of earning money. And it was quite a lucrative industry. And soon in, kind of, I'm not joking, 4 months in, literally, I thought, perhaps naively at the time, I could do this myself, run my own recruitment company, which is pretty mental. I don't know where that came from, because all my mates around me just had kind of ordinary jobs and things like that. I was the only one that sort of had this entrepreneurial spirit, if you like, and I just gave it a bash, mate, and that's where it all sort of started off for me.
So in your journey there of being employed and then thinking, give it a go yourself and start your own business, did that involve a lot of background research? I'm thinking, so I was a similar thing. I just sort of fell into business. Well, mine was more I fell into because I couldn't find a job. But did you go about researching how to start a business, how to actually run a business, or was it just, let's give it a go?
No, and I should have done. Do you know what? Honestly, Hayden, it was. I don't know. I can't really explain. That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. But I think basically it was. I kind of looked at it at face value, and I thought, do you know what? People are being paid to do this job. I could do this, and I was actually only I was like a trainee, like an entry level, and I was supporting more so on the admin side, like on the contract side of things. So I weren't getting the big boy ticket salaries and things. I was just entry level as a sort of fresh grad type. And but I thought, and don't get me wrong, it weren't all about the money. But I thought actually I could just do this and give this a go myself. And I thought, how hard? I actually thought to myself, how hard can it be that? And this is where my naivety came in, right? How hard can it be that you've got you phone a firm up, they need someone, great, I'll have that as an assignment, and then I'll just whack it out there and get some adverts out and get some CVs in, do a bit of shortlisting and just arrange some interviews and do it, sort of thing. That's honestly what I thought, and it was mental. I'll give you one little thing, and I'm happy to elaborate, but conscious that you might have a few more questions. But one thing I did do, and this is a real. This just shows you how naive I was. So I remember vividly, and I've still got it somewhere, a Guardian advert I took out in the paper, and I put graduates, because it was graduate recruitment I set up. So when I set my agency up, so graduates, ! Can't get a job without experience, can't get experience without a job. So it was like that vicious circle. Send your CV to, but I put my home address to post your CV to, because this is pre-email, so it's like post your CV to, put my home address. I swear to God, without exaggeration, I had to sign for my own sacks of mail 3 consecutive days. I swear to God. Wow. The postman came round, the first day came round, he had 2 sacks, like big massive post sacks. He rang my bell, and I came out, and I knew because I lived in a place where you sort of get to know people, sort of thing. So I knew my postie, and I said, "Hey, mate," and he said, "All right, Keith, I've got just sign here." And I said, "Yeah." So I thought he was going to give me a package. So yeah, cool. He said, "These are yours, mate," and he walked off. Absolutely hilarious. So I had to take these 2 sacks into my living room, poured them out. I swear, honestly, 3 consecutive days. I had 2 bags, 1 bag. And then it was like just a pile basically that he could hand to me as they felt like sort of just drifted out, as it were. But yeah, that was my first schoolboy error, as it were, because I had to then get them manually updated to my computer, which is basically where I called upon my mum. So my mum, bless her, she came round, and I was getting my mum to sort of do data entry for me to get all these CVs in. But that was where it all got started. And then I guess my breakthrough was when I got my first kind of if you like, my first payment for what I did. Adverts went out, CVs came in, went through the CVs, arranged some interviews. Someone got the job. Suddenly, I'm invoicing, and that was it, mate. I had a business.
So you started a recruitment agency, and it turns out you're a bit of a marketing genius then.
Well, I don't know about that, mate, but it certainly worked.
Clearly worked.
But I definitely shouldn't have put my home address, is what I learned. But it definitely captured the imagination in terms of, I guess that was it. Speaking to a lot at the time, of fresh grads, many of whom are my mates, and that was it. They were struggling to get decent jobs because they lacked the experience. So I was thinking, well, how the hell can you get experience if you can't get a job? So then it was a weird one. It just hit me really hard. I thought, there you go, that's it. We'll put that out there. We will help you if you're in that situation. It resonates. We will help you get that job. And it clearly struck a chord with quite a few people, and that's where we kicked it on, basically. And I'm pleased to say, eventually I took it out of my home environment into an actual proper office, thank God.
You mentioned in starting a recruitment agency, it wasn't necessarily money that drove you, but more the essence of being able to help people get into their job. So where did that motivation come from? Because going from pursuing football for yourself, pursuing that professional career is very much a self-motivation, a self-achievement, but then twisting that into recruitment and saying, I want to start this business now so I can help people. Where did that motivation come from?
Yeah, so, I think it's because I was very lucky, I guess in one way, that I suppose I was quite popular at school, and I was very fortunate to have a few friends and that, and I loved school, and then university was the same. Just really was able to get on with lots of different people. Loved being around people, and just socialising and having a good time, and looking after mates and this, that and the other, and helping people out. And then I guess when I fell into that recruitment gig, it was that really brought it to the fore. Like, this is amazing. You've got an industry here that you're being paid to help other people kick on, and I thought that's quite a special role, and no doubt there's other, roles and responsibilities out there that do similar sort of things in that regard, where it's commercially driven. But I thought, this is a special type of industry for me. It's people centric. It's all about the people. Businesses don't operate with people, so it's about getting the right suit for the right person, for the right company, for the right culture, environment, and all that really kind of excited me. And I really got kind of enthusiastic around it months in, and which is why I kind of thought to myself when I was coming back home, thinking I might just give this a go, because the firm I was at was kind of generalist recruitment. It was all manner of different roles and sectors and this, that and the other. But I knew so many friends of mine who had graduated and they didn't really know what they wanted to do. And so, you had like the 80-20 split. 20% got your blue chip development schemes, 80% either just got a job, fell into a job, didn't have a job, or went travelling. That was basically it. So I thought if we could have an 80-20 share of that market and tap into those minds and get to know these people as best as we can, and understand what they want to do and why they want to do it, and then we can market that into these businesses to show how they might be able to add value to their companies. And it became like almost like a blind date online. It's like, you want that, you want this, let's just match you up sort of thing. And we got paid to do that sort of stuff. So I really, really enjoyed it. And as I say, the money aspect was a secondary, because it was fulfilling a need, on both sides. You've got a pain, you've got a problem, you're really keen to do this or that. How can we solve this situation? Oh, by the way, here's a check for doing it, Keith. Thanks very much, sort of thing. So it was really cool. I mean, I say money certainly is always nice, and it's great, and it certainly helped me, kick on and move on to where I was going to be going, without knowing at the time, clearly, obviously. But yeah, no, I love those days. I look back on them, very fondly, and I've taken a lot of learnings from my history in what I do now, actually. I
want to ask one quick question on a tangent, because where you mentioned there about the whole thing of I love how you put the ad together of needing the experience to get the job, but needing the job to get the experience. That is definitely something that, in my own experience, so like me in my, I'm in my mid-20s now, not in my early 20s, but in talking to people around me in terms of finding jobs for themselves, it's still very much the same case. People are still going, I need to find a job to get some experience, but I need the experience to get the job. So what advice would you give to someone, having had years in the industry, someone that's just come out of education, whether it's a degree, whether it's college, and they want to find that job and they're stuck in that rut and they feel they're in that trap? What would you advise to them to find that career?
I think, I like how you also put years and years on me there. Cheers, Hayden, for that. I think first and foremost, the first question is, do you know what you want to do? Do you actually know what you want to do and what you enjoy doing? Because I think right now, there's no security. there's no job security. I think that's fair to say in most sectors, pretty much all of them. And I think, you've got so much choice and variety out there, and a real kind of enterprising environment where you can create your own destiny and create your own opportunities. And the power of the internet is unbelievable. We all know that. So I think first and foremost, you need to sit down. My advice to anyone would be sit down and really be absolutely honest with yourself about what your strengths are, what you enjoy doing, what your passion, where your passion is, what gets you out of bed, what's that purpose, what's that why statement about you and what you want to achieve that day, that week, that month. And if you can answer that really honestly and don't just be pigeonholed and think, oh yeah, well I've got a degree in marketing, so I could do marketing, I suppose. Don't accept that. If you've done a degree in marketing, fair play, that's great. But is it really what you want to do as a career or a job, or is it a passion of yours? It might be something that you was really good at, so you went and got that, so you got a 2-1 or a first at a good, like a Russell Group University or something. But is it what you want to do? And that's where you have to be really upfront and honest with yourself. And I wouldn't say beat yourself up about it, but just yourself better than anybody, right? And so once you can answer that, and you've got a remit in terms of what you want to do and why you want to do it, and the why is so important, because that then resonates with who you might then want to approach. And that's the second bit. So the second bit would then be start drafting together who you might know in your field that could maybe introduce you, or is those types of people in where you want to get to, and start utilising that network around you, socially and professionally. Start asking questions of people, be inquisitive, right? Start sort of asking your friends, your family, your neighbours, the community around you. I would really love this opportunity to do this. Do you know anybody? And it could end up being a random person, a friend's dad's brother or whatever it might be, your next door neighbour's best friend or their cousin round the road or something. But ultimately it's having conversations with people, and then that leads on to, well, what have you got to bring? So, you get that opportunity in front of that person with the right kind of environment you want to move into. But then it's, so what? You need to answer a so what question, because you might be one of another 100 student types, graduate types that want the same thing. So why on earth should it be you? So that's what I'm on about, having that why, about what can you bring and why do you want to do it and where do you see yourself going? What do you know about that company already, that sector, that job itself on the day-to-day? And it's, as I say, inquisitive, it's asking a lot of questions, drilling down into that sort of area. And then once you've identified all of that, be willing to put yourself up there. And even if it has to be volunteering, right? So or a bit of work experience. Look, can you take me on for a couple of weeks and let me show you what I can do, or let me show you how I can help you, and grab those opportunities and create those opportunities for yourself, rather than just wait for it to happen, because it won't. You can't. I really struggle with anybody who says, oh, I've whacked out like 12, 15 applications, no one's getting back to me, it's impossible, there's no jobs about. That's, I nearly said something and I won't. But it's just not the case. There are opportunities out there, and you've got to get off your backside and create them. If they're not going to come to you, which they typically won't, you've got to be proactive and think cleverly about why you want to do something and who you then want to speak to, because bottom line, opportunities come from conversations.
That's a fantastic answer. And I definitely agree with you there, especially like in my own company. I had one of my team members, they approached me in exactly that way. They saw what we was doing on social media, they reached out, complimented it, which always goes down well, but just said they want to get involved. They found this passion for being involved outdoors in the garden, in horticulture, and they just said, can I give you 2 weeks of my time? I want to come out every day, see what you do, see if it is something that I like the idea of. They came out for 2 weeks, they worked their socks off, showed what they could do, and then they ended up working for us part-time, and then within a couple of months they ended up moving with us full-time. So it's definitely, I think certainly the key takeaway there is to reach out and just identify. Well, it's funny because it links a lot into our conversation from the episode last week, and finding purpose and identifying what your strengths are, what you don't like, and then really striving to go for that purpose. But back into your own journey, Keith. So obviously going from pursuing professional football, and then you're in sort of your business industry, but then you've brought football back into your life. So was that something in your life where you felt football was missing, it wasn't prevalent enough? It just seems so interesting that it went from that's what you were striving for, professional football career, and then this is what this is where you found yourself now with the Street Soccer Foundation.
It's another super question, mate. Do you know what? I think the short answer is no. So I wasn't necessarily looking to get back involved with football. I guess to one extent I'd closed the chapter. I'd closed the book on that, and obviously at the time it was tough to do so, but I took the view, okay, not quite for me. It's a short-lived career anyway. Let's try and create other things and move on. Hence going into the recruitment world. And but to answer your question more in depthly, but succinctly, I think what it was a chance. It was a chance situation, Hayden, and I think we shared this personally and privately, but for the benefit of the podcast here and your listeners, I was at home, as you know, just randomly. I was just typically at home. I was just knocking around. I had the radio on in the background, and I was at that time still mulling over what maybe to do. So I'd sold my company. I'd come back from travelling the world with my wife, and that was our first holiday for a long time. And it was just kind of getting a sense of maybe what's next, because I certainly weren't going to retire. Couldn't retire anyway. Didn't want to retire, that sort of thing. Plenty of stuff to get on with. But it was kind of, what do? I don't know yet. And it was just, I wasn't desperate to jump into anything. I was lucky enough. I was fortunate enough I could take my time and just get my head around certain things. Don't get me wrong, I got very quickly bored of daytime TV, let me add. But I had the radio on, as I say, and it so happened to have, at the time, the CEO of Shelter, big national homeless charity. It was Radio 4 interview, and then they went on to youth homelessness. And when that happened, when something's in the background and you kind of are aware of it, but then something like a buzzword or something happens and you suddenly lock in, hold on a second. And then that's what happened to me. When I started going on to about young people, because of my background, I'd helped quite a lot of young people move on. And I looked into the interview, was really, really shocked by what I was hearing. And this was back in 2015, summer of 2015. So almost, over 5 years ago. I was shocked, like I say, and I sat there, whacked up my laptop, started to Google certain things. And straight away, Hayden, I immediately thought, no idea why really, but I immediately came to my mind, football is so powerful as a sport. And obviously I was slightly biased because obviously I'd played the game, I love the game, but I thought immediately it can break down barriers, it can unite people from any age, culture, background, whatever. It's the global #1 sport. You get a ball, walk onto a park, suddenly, people from anywhere might suddenly say, oh, can I have a kickabout sort of thing? And you suddenly start creating friendships and relationships, and all through the power of football. Unbelievable. And I thought straight away, this could be a kind of catalyst and some way of engagement as a glue, if you like, to attract these young individuals that are having a bit of a tough time and say, do you know what? Why don't you just come play football with us? And that's honestly what came to my mind. Why don't you just come and have a kickabout? Let's get a smile on your face. Let's forget what's going on, and let's get to know you. And let's just have a laugh, have a fun time, have a bit of an experience, and something that you can really enjoy for the moment. And that's immediately what happened. And then obviously the sort of future then started to play out. But that was what it was. So I thought very, very quickly, maybe football, and this could be the next thing for me. Maybe this is it. And it so happens that it could bring me back into the football world, albeit not as a player, but being a part and around the sport, which I really like about it, and know that it can be so powerful. And that was it, mate.
Amazing. One thing I took from that is when you started your business and it was around helping people, and in particular you said about working with young people a lot. So you're those that feel they're stuck in the rut and you're getting them that career. But then what the Street Soccer Foundation is like, you've gone deeper into that and you've found the bigger issue of people. There's people stuck in a rut and can't find work, but then you're now going deeper where there's people that are young and homeless. So getting a job's not even the first priority. It's the fact that they're homeless and without anything, they need to find that home, then they can start progressing. And it's sort of your own journey into deeper helping for people is something that just reflected well with me there, that stood out. When you had the idea to start the Street Soccer Foundation, and you said about football, that can be the key, the catalyst in bringing people together. Did you have that thought that, I'm sure loads of us go through it, but I have it, where I have these like epiphanies and I go, that's an amazing idea. And I'll sleep on it and I wake up in the morning and I'll be like, what a stupid idea. But did you have that sort of little voice in your head that's like, no, it's never going to work, it's a stupid little idea? And if you did, how did you give that the boot and stick with it?
You're making me smile so much, you saying that, like, Hayden, honestly, because pre-Street Soccer, I mean, my wife will tell you, I'm like an ideas machine. I mean, I come up with so many ideas. Like, yeah, you're shaking your head because no doubt we're very similar, mate, that constant ideas, my brain whirring non-stop, coming up with things and ways of doing things and challenging, going against the grain, and thinking about different things. And I'd be this kind of person, I don't know about you, but I'd be this kind of person that, and actually this is absolutely true, right? So for I will answer your question, by the way, but brief context is when I launched my job board, I had a like an online job board. When I launched that, the name for it, I came up with at something like 3 a.m. one particular morning, whatever. And it suddenly hit me. I thought, oh, that's such a wicked idea. And I literally forced myself to wake myself up because I knew I was kind of sleeping, dreaming, whatever. I got up and I luckily had a pad near my bedside table, and I sort of grabbed it, wrote it down, literally just the name of the firm. Then I put it back, and I got back. I tried to get back to sleep. I swear to God, 5 minutes. I was tossing and turning. No, I've got to secure that domain. So I got back up again, and I got my laptop. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "No, don't worry about it." And I got up and she went, "You an idiot." And I got up and grabbed my laptop, started to dive on it, and I bought all the domains associated itself to this thing. And then I shut my laptop down again. Thought, God, I'm such an idiot. And I got back into bed and it was fine. I woke up in the morning and I thought, that is a wicked name. I'm going ahead with it. And so that was kind of what I'd been like. Loads of ideas, some of them stupid, wacky. I've had crazy ideas. I won't bore you. I mean, seriously, unbelievably ridiculous ideas. But all that aside, with the street soccer piece, it's actually a no. I mean, I tell you, like I say, I was sat there like I am here on your show here, and listening to it, researching it, thinking about it, and I pulled an A4 bit of paper from my desk drawer. I drew 3 circles on it. I turned the A4 page on its side, drew 3 circles on it, wrote football, employability, and a question mark. And I thought this could be something where you use football for that engagement, get them in, give them some coaching, get to know them, build that relationship, move them seamlessly towards the employability aspect, coach them, educate them, this, that and the other. Wasn't quite sure what we was going to do with them because obviously they were a vulnerable set like you touched upon. Weren't quite sure how it was going to go because I had no experience of dealing with this kind of target group. But I immediately knew that I had something there that I felt very, very passionate about. And the name itself, Street Soccer, came instantly, in terms of using football to help these youngsters off the streets and try and find them, a place of their own and this, that and the other. I found one in Scotland, Street Soccer Scotland, and all power to them. They're still operational and great, doing great work. But there didn't seem to be one in England. There's local stuff going on, but I thought we could be the sort of national piece. And that's what it was. And I stuck to my guns on it. And that afternoon, Hayden, no context there other than the idea and the belief and the passion and drive behind what we wanted to try and do. Just picked up the phone to the PFA. Just said to him, I want a meeting. Just, the Professional Football Association just said, I want a meeting. Because in my mind, I thought straight away, no one's going to know street soccer. No one's really necessarily going to care about that. Everyone will know a club badge in that particular community. So that's where my brain was going. I thought we were club led, even from that first day of thinking up the idea. Picked up the phone to the PFA and said, to this guy I knew, I said, Dave, I want a meeting, get me in, ideally this week or next week. And he booked it in the diary, done, picked up a phone to a friend of mine who used to play for Chelsea, said to him, told him the idea over the phone, thought I was absolutely crazy. And but he went with it. I said, just come with me to the PFA and we'll have a little chat and I'll tell you about it on the way. I said, I'll elaborate further whilst we're on our way, because I didn't want him to say no, because I didn't want to go on my own. For some reason, I thought we'd double team it, so Dave didn't have a chance. Because this guy was quite a big guy, and he is a big guy. But that was it, mate. And as I say, went to the PFA, did the meeting, and it was all good. But yeah, so a bit long-winded answer, but that hopefully gave you a bit of substance.
It's a perfect manifestation on your previous point on my question around people that are stuck in that rut trying to find work. That's the perfect manifestation. If you find your driver, what you want to do, find that purpose and throw yourself out there. Literally, as you said, you barely had the idea. You'd come up with a concept, chuck your mate in the car, tell you on the way, and just threw yourself there. Don't wait to get the plan in place and don't wait for that perfect moment. The perfect moment doesn't exist. Just jump on it.
If I may, I'm going to add to that just because of what you've just said there. Let me tell you this as well. I'll share this with you again. Hopefully, it'll benefit listeners in some way. I'll tell you what happened immediately after that meeting with the PFA. So we had the meeting with PFA. The objective we had with that meeting was, can we get an introduction to a club? That was our objective. We don't want your money. We don't want any of this stuff. We don't want endorsements. Therefore, we know. Well, my mate didn't know, but I knew we had nothing. We had no track record, no organisation, no staff, no office premises, no nothing whatsoever, apart from it all up in my brain. So I sort of on the way said to him, look, we've got a great idea. we're going to run a project. We're going to see the PFA. What we want to do is get an intro to a club and be club-led and do a partnership with a club and have it as a community-led activity. And he said, all right, yeah, I'm on board with that. So I had the meeting with the PFA. Long story short is had the meeting and the PFA said, we'll introduce, of all the clubs, this guy, in listening to what our plan was, he said, of all the clubs, we think Charlton and West Ham are the two clubs that we could start with to introduce you to. And obviously, like I've mentioned, I used to be at Charlton, so I knew the boys down there well. I said, well, park Charlton because I could pick up the phone to them anytime. I'd love a little chat with West Ham. This is my point I want to give to you. This is exactly the case. So West Ham United CEO of the foundation, all lined up, meeting in place, come and have the meeting. So me and my friend Mick, we went down to at the time it was Upton Park because they were still at Upton Park. We went down to Upton Park and met the CEO, sat in front of the CEO. Now, let me tell you, look, this is what I want to share with you. Went into that meeting at a Premier League football club with the CEO, sat down with nothing whatsoever. Nothing at all. He, on the other hand, suited and booted, CEO of a Premier League club's charity. Yes, we look smart, I'll give you that. We made sure we were polished, but we had nothing at all. In my pocket, I happened to have a USB flash stick sort of thing with 3-slide PowerPoint. Literally a 3-slide. I thought I better get something together. So I had a 3-slide PowerPoint because I had nothing to talk about because nothing existed. But it was like just, vision, mission. That was it. Like vision, mission, kind of our purpose statement. That was it. And I'd sketched out a logo. I didn't have a proper logo. And basically I kept that in my pocket and I thought that's probably not going to do me any favours if I get that out and plug it into his machine. And he probably wouldn't allow me anyway for security reasons. So I left it and I didn't talk about it. But I'm just sharing that. And if Joe hears this, he's going to love that because I didn't ever tell him this. But anyway, my point is we had that meeting and quite understandably, Joe's peppering us with questions. But the upshot, what I want to give across here is that just because you don't have anything, right? You've got nothing about you. You've got nothing in place, nothing at all. No track record, no history, no experience in this regard. I'd never worked in charity, never worked with the homeless, never worked in a vulnerable setting. Didn't have offices, staff, didn't have any of it. Yes, I appreciate I've got experience of running a business, but in this world, nothing. Had the meeting with a Premier League football club. Rather than wait for certain things to be in place before having that meeting, went and had the meeting anyway, because I knew my objective with that meeting, as long as you have that objective in mind, I knew what I wanted to get is West Ham to say, yes, we will pilot this and partner with you to run a pilot programme. That's what our objective was. We came out of that meeting, and in fairness, it took 2 meetings, because that first meeting, joking aside, was kind of, what have we got? This is what we're there at. Have we got a meeting of minds? Yes, great. Go away, Keith. Get something a bit more formal. Understood. That was a bit of your rap on your knuckles, as it were. We are West Ham United. Come back with something, Keith, at least. That's cool. So we did that, came back, and then we had a 3-hour meeting, like with some of his coaching staff. And on the back of that meeting, the intent was, let's make this happen. Let's at least trial it and give it a go. And if you've got a situation where both sides want the same thing and are aligned in their outlook about what you want to achieve and how you might get there, I think it bodes really, really well. I think if you can identify that at the outset before you invest any further time and money, certainly ideally not money, but your time which you can't get back, really try and get those parameters in place and understood at the outset. And that's what happened with us. And when we had that all cleared and understood, and we had that end of meeting conclusion by saying, yes, we're going to partner, I then came away and then had to do almost like the Nike tick, just do it. Because it was like, right, suddenly got an email through from West Ham. Here's a contract, heads of terms. If you want to just put all your company details on there and sign that. I didn't have a bloody company. So I was like, Jesus. So then I literally created a firm. I've just flipped a firm, overnight, got a registered company up and running just so I could sign the heads of terms with West Ham to enter a partnership, knowing we'd flip it to a CIC, like a community interest company, immediately. But we didn't have to tell them that. As long as they saw a registered company that they could partner with, which we did, then we were good to go. But behind the scenes, we were furiously working on the legals to convert it to a CIC, which is a non-profit organisation. And obviously, fast forward where we are now, obviously we're a registered charity. But I hope that's, I say, a bit of a tongue-in-cheek story, but it hopefully gives you a bit of a story for the listeners that, you can make things happen even if you don't have anything about you right now.
No, definitely. And I think that's the perfect example. Is it Branson that had the quote of just say yes and work out how to do it afterwards. Great attitude towards it there. Just jump in the meeting, get it sorted out, go in there with what you've got, and they're going to ask loads of questions and you work that out later down the line and get started. So from the get-go then, you've got your partnership with West Ham. Do you think a key there, because you mentioned about when you went into the meetings and planned them, it wasn't about going in and saying, here's what we want from you, can we have money, can we have this? Do you think that was, I think I know the answer to this, but is that a key player then in approaching, well, you're approaching a Premiership football club, so is that a key there? It's not about, here's what we want to take from you, it's about, here's this dream we've got, can we collaborate?
I think exactly that. I think there's two things. I think there's one, don't come out with the obvious, right? So the expectation on their side, no doubt, will be, can we have some of your money, please, to run a project to help the homeless? That is absolutely their expectation, and Joe pretty much, accepted and admitted that. And we kind of guessed that because, like you say, they are a Premier League club. So most people, literally, and they get requests left, right, and centre all day, every day. But we was like, we don't want one penny, so we're not going to ask for any money. The second thing, though, is exactly that. Be very clear on what you want to achieve, and have it where you want it to benefit the other party, and have it. If you see this as a true partnership, see it as a true partnership, not one or the other. So don't just fully serve or be all about you in going into a partnership. That's really important. You air what you want to achieve, see what they're about. If that's aligned, it bodes really, really well. But let's get that really clarified, absolutely up front. Because if they want to do this and you're down here, it's not going to work, and vice versa. So, they ultimately found that they didn't have a homeless project. So we were going to be their homeless project. And from our point of view, we wanted to be badged with West Ham and have them benefit from that. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about me as a person. It wasn't about even street soccer. It was about, can we create a project that West Ham United will benefit from for the benefit of their local community in East London? And it was a case in point achieved, because of all the programmes they ran with during that pilot programme, every year Premier League clubs get what they call a spotlight from Match of the Day, and they get on the community side, and they get to choose one of any of their community projects that they've done during the season. They all get a spotlight opportunity. Not all clubs take it, but West Ham took theirs, and of all the programmes, they took our one. Unbelievable. And that was a pilot. So it wasn't even like a fully fledged years of experience thing. We were pilot phase, and David Gold, like the co-owner, contacted me and said, we'd like to run the spotlight with the Street Soccer Project. Is that okay with you? Are you mental? Is that okay with me? No, absolutely it is. Of course it is. It'll be a privilege. And then suddenly I'm achieving a boyhood dream there, Hayden, because I'm suddenly on bloody Match of the Day, and Gary Lineker is doing the anchor and linking it into us, albeit that I'm there on behalf of the Street Soccer Programme. But what an achievement. Incredible. So, it's that. I hope that's decent advice there. It's just getting that understood and underlining ambition on both sides, because I think it's really important, particularly when you run your own business, because it can be very lonely at the top. And if you're considering going into a partnership, or even like a JV or whatever, or maybe getting a co-founder, save the heartache up front. Get it really as best as you can. There's no guarantees in life, obviously, but as much as you possibly can, mitigate the risk by having that honest conversation up front.
One thing I want to comment there, when you said about making it onto Match of the Day, I think one thing to take out of this, and I don't know if you thought it or reflected on it, obviously striving as a young man to go down the route of professional football, but you've still ended up on Match of the Day, which it's not playing on a field and scoring goals and such, but you're on Match of the Day. That's the epicenter of the football community, but you've achieved it in a very different way. And I've got to say, I find it to be a far more commendable achievement in what you've done there with Street Soccer Foundation. That's the reason you're on Match of the Day, not because you're like, yeah, it's phenomenal to become a professional football player, but you're on Match of the Day because of the foundation you've built, what you've created, all out of this idea that you just went with it, threw everything into it. And hats off to you for achieving that and getting to that, having that accolade of sitting on Match of the Day. And conscious of time. Oh, pleasure. So one question that I always end on, what is, on the topic of benevolent business and making the world a better place, what is one thing within the world or within humanity that occurs that you would like to see abolished one day?
Oh, well, one thing, goodness me. A really good friend of mine is the founder of Peace One Day, Jeremy Gilly. And myself and we're massive believers in the global goals and the sustainable development goals, 17 of those. And, number 17, actually, the 17th goal is all about partnerships and collaborations to effectively achieve the 16. And that's the outlook I personally have. So in terms of being collaboratively minded, being partnership led, how can we work together to solve issues and problems and make the world a better place? So I guess in that regard, as an individual, I'm about having that why statement about yourself, that purpose-led approach to whatever you want to put yourself towards, because you invest your time. That is the biggest investment you can make, because that's what you can't get back. So in terms of that personal development and your outlook and your purpose, that's really, really important to get a handle on that. And then to add to that, I guess, in the nature of what we do at the foundation, naturally, we're looking to, end homelessness and within that poverty, I guess. And that's one of the global goals. I think, there's all sorts, to be honest with you, mate. It's really tough to stick on one because, climate is a big issue as well. And I'm well aware of that. I could go on, mate, because I've just said to you there's 16. So, but I think to kind of end on that, I think being aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, and I'd encourage everyone, if they're not aware of them already, please have a look at them, just so you can become aware of where we're at as a world, as a global situation, what the issues we face as a planet, and what can you do, because you can do something, and don't feel that you're just one person and what the hell can I do in this massive world of ours. You absolutely can make a footprint and make an impact, and 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes many, and I'm very fortunate that I've got Street Soccer Foundation. We're utilising football, which, resonates with so many people all over the world. And so our activities then encourage others to become aware of it or want to get involved or want to ask questions about it. And suddenly they become supporters, sponsors, practitioners, coaches, mentors. But all of a sudden our team, like I say, it's expanding. See what I mean? So, really believe in what you want to go after. And if you can attach some form of impact to that, maybe if you want to see that as a legacy, then all power to you. But I hope that's okay as an answer, guys.
Keith, that was an incredible answer. Thank you.
So if people want to find out more about Street Soccer Foundation and get in contact with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Our official website is streetsoccerfoundation.org.uk. From that, you can obviously see about all of our team. I'm on there as well. I do have a personal website, keithmabbutt.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously the socials and that. I try not to get too much involved with all the social stuff. I mean, my social guys are telling me to be much more active on that. So I've started to get on Instagram, but it's just me doing some jogs in branded merchandise, which I get a lot of stick for. So if anyone finds me on there, please be gentle with me. I'm a rookie. So streetsoccerfoundation.org.uk is probably the best place to start.
Brilliant. We'll have the links to all those in the description for the podcast as well.
Thanks, David. Brilliant stuff.
Keith, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Hayden, it's been my pleasure, mate, and I'm really grateful for the given opportunity, and I love this project, what you're doing, the Benevolent Business podcast. It's absolutely awesome. All power to you, and I really wish you great success in the future.
Thank you, and to you.
Thanks for your time.
All the success with Street Soccer Foundation.
That was a really good interview with Keith, and you can tell he's been on, he runs his own podcast because he's very fluent in what he's saying. One of the things that really stuck out to me was the way he had to change his purpose during his life. So, his purpose was, I want to be a Premier League footballer. And then he had to switch from that because obviously they got to a point where he couldn't do that anymore. And I don't know if he lost his purpose, but obviously he got his office job. And then through that, he refound his purpose through football and helping young people who needed it through football. And just that change of purpose I thought was really interesting with Keith.
Yeah, and it was such a fun conversation to have, and he's just like such a genuinely nice person that wants to help. And I feel like he's the kind of person that when he starts speaking you want to listen. He's just so entertaining, and it's great to see that, like, hearing his story and where he went through and how he found his motivators. It's great to see that he's got such a driven purpose and he is making such a benevolent impact.
And you can tell that we know absolutely nothing about football.
Yeah.
There were some like really cool key life lessons in there as well. Like when he said, he had this idea and he's like, right, I need to speak to a Premier League club. And so he's like, right, got the meeting for the next day. And he's like, I haven't got anything. Put together 3 slides, just go up there and do it. And sometimes I feel, coming from a video background, everyone's like, right, I want to get this done, and then I'll create a video. So at the moment, it's really stupid. It's, I need to have my hair cut, so I can't do my video until April. But as humans, we tend to do that, don't we? We're like, right, I'm waiting until this point, and then I'll be ready to do it. But the problem is that point always gets moved back
The
and back
perfect
and back.
moment.
Yeah, there's no
Perfect moment, yeah.
such thing. So rather than that, just see what you got and go for it.
And you'll learn much more just by doing. Like, even touching on the video idea, like, because I've made so many ridiculous, stupid videos, and like the first ones you make will be awful, and you'll get made fun of, and people will laugh at them. But
No. But only your friends. But even if your videos were brilliant, they'll do that. People online, they'll go, "This is amazing," because
true.
you know they want to support you.
But even like if you do get like ridiculed and made fun of and stuff, which I have, but it's just embrace it, and also it just means people are talking about your video and people are giving you feedback. I've had it where I've had like networks of people, well obviously like both you and me, Dave, do networking, and I've had like my own little network sort of all cracking jokes about it. I'm like, laugh as much as you want. Right now all of you lot are talking about me, talking about my video, and you're just sharing it for me, so appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you give me notes on how to improve it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my YouTube videos 2 weeks ago, and I said the two main ways that you can improve your content, video content, social media content, whatever. One of the main ways is to embrace failure, because it's not failure, it's an opportunity to learn. And people actually learn the most when they fail at something, because they go, right, I'm never going to do that again, and they put their processes in place to make sure it never happens.
Yeah, exactly. Just have a go, make the mistakes, set up the meeting with the CEO of West Ham.
And then go in with 3 presentation slides, and he goes, "You ain't done anything, have you?" Nope.
Look where he got him. Prime example.
If people have got any comments, feedback, anything like that, how can they get in touch?
They can find us, Dave, on social media, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, and that's at Benevolent Business Podcast. They can find both you and me on LinkedIn. If you've got any like positive feedback and you want to share your thoughts and ideas, get in touch with me, Hayden Bloomfield. If you've got anything negative to say, get in touch with Dave.
And I'll reply with a lovely positive comment.
Or you can email me directly, hayden.bloomfield@hotmail.com.
And next week we're joined by John Waddy of the Kentish Soap Company, and you'll hear how he had like a jet set lifestyle working in Australia, and he gave all that up to come and make soap, which is a fascinating story.
It is. I can't wait.
See you next week.
Until next time.